Hello and welcome to the 2021 City of Boise State of the City Address. I'm Tom Wortell, a partner with Holly Troxell and board chair of the Boise Metro Chamber of Commerce. As you all know, this event looks very different than we originally envisioned months ago. With the continuing rise of COVID-19 cases in our community and the increased pressure on our healthcare system, we once again did what we've all become so accustomed to doing. We pivoted. To help protect the health and safety of our community, this event is now mostly virtual with limited in-person attendance. Those of us here in person are following safety protocols like wearing masks and socially distancing. We thank our community for understanding why we had to make this change and encourage each of you to continue to do what you must do to protect the health of our community, and may we all do what we must do to protect and ensure the capacity of our hospitals. We thank our sponsors for making this event possible. The Chamber certainly appreciates the opportunities it has had to collaborate with the city on many issues that are important to our business community. Before I introduce Mayor McLean, I want to acknowledge Yom Kippur, the holiest holiday of the year for those of our friends who practice Judaism. Wishing all those who observe in our community and around the world an easy and meaningful fast. It is my distinct honor to introduce Boise Mayor Lauren McLean. Mayor McLean is the 56th mayor of the city of Boise. She is the first elected female mayor in the city's 150-year history. 3 months into her first term as mayor of Boise, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Despite the very real challenges brought on by the virus, she continues to lead boldly with the community at the forefront of every decision. As mayor, she has led the fight against climate change, setting ambitious goals to lead the city into an environmentally and economically resilient future. Her vision is to create a city that is truly for everyone, one that offers equitable access to housing, living wage jobs, transportation, and a seat at the table for those residents when decisions are being made about the future. Please join in welcoming our mayor, Lauren McLean.
Well, hello, Boise. This event sure looks a lot different than I thought it would just even a week ago. I can't lie. I hoped that we would all gather together, and I would, for the first time, as your mayor, have this important conversation with our community in person. Because this speech, like our city, is about people. I imagine looking out on a sea of smiling faces for a little feedback in a speech, which is nice, coming together to celebrate our community, our resiliency, and our hopes for the future. But just as we've had to do so many times throughout the last 18 months, we pivoted because the current spread of COVID-19 throughout our region requires a scaled-down approach. And just this morning, we got the terrible news that our entire state is now under crisis standards of care. So this afternoon, in this virtual format, with just a few people joining me safely in our council chambers, I'll honor community heroes on the front lines of the pandemic and highlight our community's continued resilience. I'm also going to share the progress we've made on our strategic priorities and talk about ways we can work together to protect and preserve the Boise we know and love. And while the format's not what I imagined, it does not change the honor I feel to share this moment with you. So thanks to each and every one of you for joining, and each and every one of you watching today. And first off, I want to thank the Boise Metro Chamber. You originally volunteered to host this event, and you worked with us to have a safe event. I so appreciate the leadership of our business community as you've worked with us to keep this community safe. The last 2 years have asked a lot of each of us, especially those making decisions at the local level. Our city council has worked tirelessly to keep our community as safe as possible, to address pressing community needs, and to respond to Boiseans during this unique and challenging time, all while setting us up for the future. Council President Elaine Clegg Pro Tem Lisa Sanchez, council members TJ Thompson, Holly Woodings, Patrick Bajent, and Jimmy Halliburton, I really thank you. And before we dive in, I need to acknowledge our city's healthcare workers. You have been on the front lines of this pandemic for more than a year and a half. You've worked tirelessly to care for our people, and now you're being called to do even more. Our hospitals and medical centers are full. They're being flooded with people from across Idaho as our entire state has entered crisis standards of care. And let me be clear, it did not need to be this way. When COVID-19 started, Boise led. We stayed home. We wore masks. We physically distanced. We sacrificed. And when the vaccine became available, Boiseans lined up for it. 2/3 of Boiseans are vaccinated. And when our healthcare workers needed our support the most by taking steps proven to combat this disease, we did. We did it to protect each other and to honor their sacrifice. And now our city and hospitals are overflowing with the unvaccinated. This isn't just a Boise problem. It is a state problem. Now, Boiseans who have been steadfast in our efforts to combat the spread of this deadly disease are being unfairly impacted by those who choose to burden our healthcare system by refusing to get the vaccine if they're able. We need a statewide approach. Our hospitals, our doctors, our nurses have begged for action statewide to fight this pandemic. Boiseans are crying for help, scared that after so many months of doing the right thing, they know they may not have access to the necessary care we would need in case of a stroke, a heart attack, a car accident, or worse. I am asking the state to step up and do the right thing. We owe it to those who have put their own health on the line to care for us. We are deeply grateful to our healthcare workers. They have endured the worst of this. I continue near daily conversations with leaders in our healthcare system to monitor the situation, and I stand ready to help the system and the staff we rely on. I thank you, healthcare heroes. You can continue to count on Boiseans to keep doing our part. And thanks to each and every one of you, Boise. Together, in this unprecedented time, you have demonstrated you'll step in and care for those that need it, that you care deeply about this city, the city we love, and that you'll continue to dig in and help shape our future while protecting what we all know Boise to be. I know you're tired, but I also know that you won't let up. While the last 2 years have felt unique, a pandemic, growth, pushes for social and political change, what's most striking to me when I reflect on our 150-year history is how we've experienced these intense periods of things, and our community's personality always shines through. We plan, we debate, we take the steps needed to protect each other in this city. We welcome everyone, we create opportunity, and then yes, we grow again. There's a clear through line in the stories of our own history. From our earliest days, we are optimistic people who stepped up and cared for each other. When historian Arthur Hart wrote, "We have faced a variety of problems during our pursuit of building a city of trees in a desert wilderness, and we've continued to show a unity of purpose and action," he was identifying a trait that makes Boise unique to this very day. He was identifying what I would call the Boise way. Boise is a place where we care deeply for one another. We're creative, coming up with Boise solutions to challenges, which we see as opportunities. We work together to protect our residents, create solutions that will grow our economy while addressing challenges like climate head on. We protect our open spaces and pathway connections. We try new ideas to address housing and other essential community needs, and we try and try again as needed. And this is all in our shared pursuit of protecting each other and this place that we love, especially as we grow. It's our people. It's that Boise way that makes our community special. A belief that we can and we will do this together against all odds in the midst of historic change and challenge. You know, back in the 19th and earliest centuries, our population doubled regularly. Early residents looked for ways to create opportunity, build community, because they were intent on creating a life in this super special place. They suffered setbacks and shared celebrations. The innovative dream of connecting water to the desert took years, but it eventually paved the path for the city and the region that we know today. The economic opportunity that Boise offered brought folks like Mayor James Pinney, who came by way of California and Oregon to Boise. He made Boise home and opened the Egyptian Theater, a place we all enjoy, and I know we all cannot wait to be able to go see films, listen to music, listen to authors in again. The Boise Phil started because Boiseans sought access to the arts. Just as today we saw outside so many people at City Hall Plaza showing up to enjoy the performances of artists who continued their work when their theaters and venues closed. Emma Edwards from Missouri found Boise, and she was so inspired that when she went home, she entered the contest to design our state seal, becoming the first and only woman in our country to do so. And 100 years ago, Boiseans found themselves embroiled in the political, social, and economic debates taking place nationally, like women's suffrage, while living through the Spanish flu, wearing gauze over their faces to protect each other, closing shops, canceling classes, postponing church services in the earliest days as everyone sought to understand the pandemic and how best to protect each other. Mayor Samuel Hayes and the city council at the time and the community, together with the community, took steps to prevent the spread while learning continuously and debating often about what was most effective. We experienced a shortage of nurses, confusion over what should close and what didn't need to, and when to reopen. I love this. The Idaho Statesman reported on 3 women who had courage enough, despite the attention, to wear masks on the streets of Boise before the Red Cross and others started selling them to the public. In so many ways, these stories are our stories. The history gives context to our current situation. It helps me, and I hope it helps you, feel less alone. Today, our city is growing quickly in the midst of another pandemic, in the midst of calls for social change and deeply intense political debates, locally and nationally. As previous generations expressed concerns about protecting our uniqueness as the city grew, they also welcomed newcomers, showing them that digging in, creating community, made them welcome, turned newcomers into neighbors. And those newcomers of the past are the old-timers of today. They're your parents or your grandparents. Almost all of us came from somewhere else. And as the city has grown, it's absorbed new residents who jumped right in to debate, to organize, to help shape today's Boise. So whether you found this place on your own or your relatives did several generations ago, I know you each care deeply about the city and you want to help us protect it. Our younger residents are deeply involved in shaping the future of this place that we call home because they too feel the same. Now for me, I've always found understanding and inspiration in history. It's so important that as we face these challenging times, that we remind ourselves that we've done this before. I wish we knew more about the nurses, the teachers, the leaders, the neighbors, the activists, and the debates and decisions made by those during the last pandemic. And I want to make sure that 100 years from now, or the next time the city faces a challenge like this, future Boiseans know about what everyday Boiseans did this time around. I want them to know these stories, who stepped up, who sacrificed, who innovated, and who helped ensure that when we do move beyond this moment, our community thrives because we took care of each other. We dreamed up Boise solutions and once again emerged with a city and community that comes together with that unity of purpose and action that Arthur Hart wrote about. It's that Boise way that will create economic opportunity, protect our health, address climate, provide housing, and more. Young and old alike, we dig in together and we shape this city that we love. Everyday Boiseans, leaders, essential workers, city employees, volunteers, and yes, those community heroes, some of you are here today, that I'll talk about today, form the essence of this city. You protect who she is and continue to shape who she will be. It's truly a blessing to serve as your mayor in this moment, to be charged with bringing people together, to address our city's challenges, to seek opportunities, and to protect this unique and unrivaled community as we forge our future. More and more lately, people have asked what it's like being a mayor in a pandemic, being a new mayor in a pandemic. Shutting down City Hall before I'd even had a chance to fully staff my office, to be creating new partnerships and building trust that was needed to team with seasoned city staff, only to have to pivot and address the needs of a community in crisis. In so many ways, I did what we all did. I did what we had to do. We did what we had to do. We built partnerships in this city and throughout this community quickly. There wasn't time for reflection when all our extra time was doing something I never imagined myself doing: studying pandemics, talking with scientists, learning how to read models, implementing emergency policies, and even learning how wastewater testing worked. I stepped into this role and I immediately faced tough decisions regarding things I'd only read about: a public health crisis, masks to protect residents and keep our businesses open, protests and social movements, a housing crisis. I could go on, and yet history tells us we've done this before and we'll get through it again together. It's hard to answer that question, what it's like to be a mayor in a pandemic. I felt like I've experienced what each of you has had to experience. As a mom, how do I support my kids? Are they going to get through school okay? As a wife, is Scott really doing okay working above the garage nearly two years into this, juggling our kids' needs, supporting me in this role? During the shutdown, I wondered if I'd make the right decisions for our family, for your families, and for our city. Images from those early days come to mind. I'd look out on the quiet streets from my office that was still empty without furniture, thinking about the need to close city facilities and send a lot of our staff home from work. The silence and empty hallways of City Hall. Getting a crash course in building a team as the city prepared to announce changes, public health rules, to close down our offices, but then switching back into mom mode and making the heart-wrenching decision with Scott to bring our daughter home from her year overseas before the borders closed. And then waking her up the next morning and telling her she had less than 12 hours to get on a plane. My heart ached for her lost opportunities, and hours later, I was standing at a podium, closing the city. It all felt surreal. I worried about my kids while I worried about my residents. It weighed heavy, but my family settled in, like we all did, to school, to work, and yes, to governing from home. The city and our vital services continued to operate. Our staff and residents stepped up in ways I'll be eternally grateful for. Like many of you, I found ways to fill my cup. I ran trails under those blue, blue skies during the shutdown and saw so many Boiseans coping as we do best outside. I read letters of those waiting and waiting and waiting for state unemployment benefits and saw city staff trying to do everything they could to fill the gaps. I hired my team remotely. It was each of you and the steps that we took to support each other and our families on our blocks, in our remote classrooms, and in virtual get-togethers. Our commitment to protecting and putting people first that carried me and carried this community through. Despite the challenges, the uncertainty, the tough days, the long days, people ask what it's like to be a new mayor, your mayor, during the pandemic. And I would say it's an honor beyond words. So one of the distinct honors supporting those around her. A retired nurse, Danette invited her neighbors to bring chairs outside on Saturday evenings. Now, before that, the neighbors didn't know each other that well. They said their polite hellos, but that was about it. Her neighbors tell me that on the coldest and darkest days, they'd peek outside and see Danette with her chair, and they'd run to join her, so happy it was happening again. Community on a block in a time when it was hard to reach and see others. And as the vaccine became available, Danette, thank you, Danette took it upon herself to educate her neighbors on the safety and the importance of getting vaccinated. Their block is 100% vaccinated, including kids age 12 and up, thanks to Danette's efforts. Her neighbors say, Danette built a community in our cul-de-sac that made the pandemic more bearable, where everyone was welcome, and everyone left each week with a sense of belonging and optimism. Danette is a community hero. In our simplest acts, our most caring acts, we show what it means to be a Boisean. Danette. In these last 2 years, as Boise's grown, we've set aside differences for one important shared value: our love of this place, our desire to protect it, our passion to shape it, the belief that Boise provides and will provide the opportunities we deserve and want for our kids. I've heard this through and through in listening sessions, at coffee shops, on those trail runs I mentioned, in the art made, music made, stories told by Boiseans. And that brings me to another community hero that demonstrates this unity of purpose, strengthening our community through it. City of Good is an example of Boiseans coming together in a Boise way. Farmers needed markets for their food. Restaurants needed someone to cook for. Schools were closed, so kids and families that normally had access to food support were without it. So innovative Boise residents came together to found an organization steeped in emergency response and committed to our community. As I volunteered to deliver meals, and I toured the kitchens and met the Boiseans putting those meals together, I knew they were making a difference. I hoped they'd stay around post-COVID. And I'm pleased to say that they continue to focus on their core mission of supporting at-risk and food insecure kids by providing those meal kits that they started creating during the shutdown. They are community heroes for this work. Please join me in giving City of Good a round of applause. Speaking of meals, many of our local restaurants stepped up to feed our community over the last year. One of those heroes is Javier Andrade. Javier has offered free meals, no questions asked, at his local restaurant on the Boise Bench since the pandemic began. His selflessness and dedication to the community and its people is inspiring, and I am so grateful that he and others wrapped their arms around those in need as our community needed it most. Thank you, Javier. Throughout our city, a passion for service and for the Boise community has driven folks like Javier and the founders and volunteers at City of Good. Throughout the last year, residents have stepped in to make sure that we are prepared for a resilient and sustainable future. Our civic, corporate, and educational leaders joined our Economic Recovery Task Force, and others joined our Child Care Task Force. And each of them provided us with recommendations to make sure that we're growing our economy, that we're able to recruit business, and to address the needs of our workforce. And those steps paid off. We were proud to welcome Azek, a manufacturer of sustainable outdoor living products, to Boise, which was just one example of investments being made here. They chose to build their facility in our city because of our commitment to climate action, our can-do attitude, and our shared values of building mission-driven businesses and community. Small businesses, homegrown and national companies that locate here, our residents who are investing in Boise all share the same vision: prosperity today and into the future. We are making investments to support that vision every day. From the early days of digging canals, chasing the railway, building theaters, and creating neighborhoods, residents intent on building a beautiful city of trees in a desert wilderness, we sensed promise. It took ingenuity, persistence, ambition, passion. And when Boise began to grow and grow rapidly, people were worried. Just like before us, we are worried that this place that we love will change. But what keeps us coming back to the well to fight for our neighbors, for our businesses, for our families, our children, our foothills and parks, our clean air and water, is that deeply held belief that this place is special. We feel it. It's each of us doing that hard work that is the soul of Boise. And we need each other now more than ever, working together to ensure that we have a home for everyone, accessible open space for everyone, opportunity for everyone. And when I think about community, I think about connection. I'm reminded of the vision and purpose that made the Greenbelt possible. People thought the original Greenbelt members on that committee were crazy, that they were trying to do something that was absolutely impossible. And it's going to take that same vision and same determination to create more, a unity of purpose and action that I'm proud to see in our Pathways Committee. And our Pathways plan envisions more than 200 miles of pathways across our city. And that'll put 84% of Boise residents within a walk, a short walk of a pathway. And I'm proud to announce our first project. The Tuttle Lateral, which is behind Milwaukee Park, will make a connection between Milwaukee and Cole roads, connecting all those people in between there. I want to thank the partnership of the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District. The Pathway Committee will continue to work to connect our neighborhoods to each other, our kids to our schools, and our residents to jobs. And while making these connections, the City Council and I agree that every kid should be able to walk to a park in 10 minutes. Because being able to walk to a park will connect each of us with the green spaces we need to rest, reconnect, and play. And it'll also help in our efforts with regard to our America the Beautiful pledge by increasing natural areas and help us double our tree canopy. In Boise, we set goals. We work hard to achieve them. And better yet, we beat them. I am so excited to announce that we're working closely with Idaho Power to meet our 100% clean electricity goals for our city government well in advance of our 2030 target. In fact, we are on track to meet this goal as soon as 2023. That is 7 years early. We're energized, not just by electricity, not just by beating our own goals, but on the progress it'll help us make towards our goals of citywide clean electricity. And really, because of what that means for each of you. Adam Richens, the COO of Idaho Power, is here with us today. I want to thank you for the partnership that we have that's made this possible. Thank you very much. And speaking of the future, we're one of the first cities in the country to launch a fleet of electric garbage trucks. And a few weeks before the announcement, I came across the team from Republic Services in front of City Hall taking pictures of these trucks. And I talked with the manager of operations, and he offered to take me out for a ride. So I jumped in, we circled downtown, and I noticed that it was really quiet, it was clean, it was cool, and he pointed out that it was fast. And I asked him what he thought about this new kind of truck. I asked him what his drivers thought about this new kind of truck. And he told me that as someone who'd been a garbage man for 30 years, after leaving the military, moving through the ranks to his current position, that he appreciated working for a company that was thinking about and embracing the future. Because to win in the future, Republic wanted to and needed to innovate. And because they were willing to innovate, it meant that he and others like him, hardworking people, would have jobs today and in a changing world into the future. Electric garbage trucks, clean energy, jobs. This is opportunity today and into the future. It's an incredible step forward, and it's an example of how we're taking real climate action. Republic Services, thank you for your partnership. So these are both important steps in our pursuit of climate resilience and a strong economy. And it's our community's unwavering commitment to our natural environment, to making sure that our kids and grandkids inherit the open spaces and natural places that we enjoy. And it's your understanding that the economy of the future requires climate action today that motivates our city's bold climate goals. You asked us to turn the climate challenge into an opportunity, that Boise way. And that got the attention of the White House. It brought the president to Boise. And what an honor it was to welcome him and share Boise's vision, our vision of a clean city for everyone. Now, switching gears, the most basic, pressing need for our community and ultimately for our economic success is housing. Today, we're seeing growth similar to what Boise saw after World War II, in the 70s and again in the 90s. We're facing the same debates, same concerns, but in a different time and with different opportunities to realize our goals. Our priorities are to preserve and produce housing and to keep people in their homes and to house the unhoused. Having a home that's affordable and making that opportunity available to everyone matters personally to me. A home created stability for us, and it was the heart of our family life surrounded by a community that cared. That means something, and I want that for my kids, but I want that for all of our kids. We need more homes for Boiseans that Boiseans can afford, and we need support to keep Boiseans in their homes so they can focus on other things, like creating economic opportunity. Jesse Tree, the Boise City Ada County Housing Authority, and the Idaho Housing and Finance Association are tireless in their work to keep Boiseans housed. You're supporting people in their hardest of times, changing their lives for the better. You are community heroes, and we thank you. Now, speaking of these organizations, together with them, we have provided $7.8 million in emergency rental assistance help, a direct result of the American Rescue Plan. That's 1,352 households we've helped pay their bills when they needed it most, and we expect to have a second round of funding available this fall. But even with this help, there are too many in our community that are struggling. They can't find a home they can afford. To continue calling this community their community home. We have a unique opportunity right now with the American Rescue Plan and other potential federal grants and Build Back Better to not only protect existing housing and provide emergency relief, but to use these resources to bring more investments to the table to help achieve housing at Boise budgets. I'm asking business leaders, developers, philanthropists, and the community to match our investment. We need your help to provide 1,250 affordable units in the next 5 years. Now is the time. and some folks who have stepped up to build partnerships and leverage resources for our most vulnerable families are the chairs of the Campaign to End Family Homelessness. Tommy Alquist, Tracy Levick, Andrea Clark-Roop. You are overseeing the effort to keep families housed and find homes for families. Part of this effort is the 300 Homes campaign, where they're asking developers to dedicate homes in their projects for families experiencing homelessness. Tommy, Tracy, and Andrea, thank you. You are community heroes. We are also excited to announce that together with Pacific Companies, we'll be able to expand the impact of supportive services at New Path by building housing right next door. This is going to add an additional 100 homes that'll house 250 people. And I'm proposing that we dedicate the open land next to Fire Station 5 downtown for housing. As we rebuild this fire station, we can also create about 52 homes for individuals without children experiencing homelessness. But that's not all. Housing is not all. Our working families need quality and affordable childcare so that they can work, build their lives, help grow our economy. This pandemic showed us the impact that closed childcare centers have on our ability to return to work. COVID-19 has driven too many parents out of the workforce as they try to juggle these different priorities. One day, while schools were closed, I visited the Whitney Community Center. Kids were there, guided by community staff as they attended school online. They could run down the hall to see their teacher or sit in the classroom as their teacher taught school online. They had a break to play in the gym to get their wiggles out. They could grab some food, and importantly, they felt the care and comfort that kids need to thrive. This is made possible by so many, but one community hero oversees it and has created a vibrant and nurturing place for kids to spend their time. Barbara English, the person that nominated you, wrote that while there were many unsung heroes during this crisis, you showed up every day for our kids to make sure they kept learning, stayed engaged, and were prepared for a bright future. We want every child to feel the impact of someone who's there for them while their parents are at work, like kids at the Whitney Community Center. Barbara and her team at Parks and Rec are doing an incredible job to lift the next generation of Boiseans. Barbara, thank you. We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in our community to meet its most pressing needs with the American Rescue Plan dollars. We'll invest in childcare for Boise's kids so parents aren't forced to make a choice between affordable, quality care and the job they need to build a life. We'll support local businesses that are struggling to stay open, and we'll seek to meet our housing needs, food security, and other basic needs. Most importantly, we'll do this in a way that brings together investments from other agencies, from civic organizations, from philanthropists, because we want to have maximum impact. But we wanted to do this well, we need to hear from you. We want to hear from you. It's your ideas, it's your solutions, it's your insight that will help us invest these resources most wisely. So today we're going to launch a web page to collect your ideas for these investments. We're asking you to think about innovative ways to make transformational change in our community. And we're also going to work with organizations who serve our most vulnerable populations to organize listening sessions so we can hear firsthand from community members who stand and could benefit the most to have their most pressing needs met as we're investing. We want to make sure that these investments have maximum impact. Hearing from the community, listening to each other, will always ensure that we stay Boise as we grow. Boiseans did this 100 years ago. We did it 50 years ago, 30 years ago. And one such community hero is doing this today, all while completing high school. Luke Swenson is founder and director of the I Love This Life Foundation. Luke's nonprofit, in addition to raising money to fight cancer, reaches local kids through inspiring school assemblies. But when schools closed, he had to pivot. He created an outdoor summer camp for kids struggling with self-esteem and bullying, and found ways to lift them up. His mentorship, his programming, is helping the next generation tackle mental health issues and take positive action. And now it's expanding out of state, though we'd prefer you just do us more here. Luke's drive and commitment to helping others inspires me, and I hope this Young Community Heroes inspires you. Please join me in congratulating Luke Swenson. Luke and other young Boiseans inspire us as they actively continue our tradition of commitment to each other, that unity of purpose and action as we build our beautiful city of trees. Their intellect and passion, their understanding of the challenges of our time and the complexities of the solutions means that our community is in good hands. And the Boise we know and love, the Boise that every generation has known and loved, will withstand today's challenges because they are ready to step up. And as I think about the future, I can't help but keep thinking back to that statement on our early days. Boise leaders faced a variety of problems during their long campaign to build an attractive city of trees in a desert wilderness, but they continued to show a unity of purpose and action. In the decade after World War II, Boise's population grew by 30%. Boiseans needed affordable housing, schools, a sewer system, roads. In the 70s, we grew by 26%, and our community grappled with protecting our river, expanding our parks, developing land use plans, arguing over urban renewal. In the 90s, we grew 36%, and we debated open space preservation and planning, housing developments, the influx of people, our concerns that had changed the city so well loved. And we find ourselves today debating the best ways to protect our city, meet housing needs, address open space and parks, safeguard clean water and infrastructure. Boiseans always rolled up their sleeves and served. Look where it got us. Their struggle is our proof that we can do hard things today. And we are faced again with the need to grow our infrastructure. And we're going to do it the Boise way. From air travel and industry to clean water infrastructure, we are investing in jobs of the future and protecting the resources we need to thrive. Maintaining a strong, vibrant, and busy airport is key to our economy. And when COVID hit, we had to pause some long-planned projects. But in that pause, we prepared to use the land around the airport to stimulate the economy. And now we are full steam ahead. We've selected Adler Industrial to be our partner on industrial development on airport lands that long sat dormant. This will increase industrial activity within our city limits, creating jobs and opportunity. And importantly, Adler embraces our commitments to energy efficiency, clean energy, and has a strong record of sustainable infrastructure. And while getting around is key to commerce, our water renewal system is too. Though it's often overlooked when you think about exciting infrastructure that's key to jobs, health, and prosperity. But another way to invest for the future, the Boise way, is by expanding our water renewal system and preparing for water constraints of the future. This fall, we can meet the demands of growth, protect the Boise water, create economic opportunity, and take climate action the Boise way by voting for a bond to modernize our water renewal system and keep rates affordable. It needs an upgrade, and we need to protect our clean water, our river, and provide reliable water for homes and businesses into the future. You know, back in the 50s, in the middle of intense debates as our city grew, Boiseans supported a bond to build the Lander Street facility. And that made it possible for us to clean our river, making it is what we know it to be today. Just imagine if early generations hadn't worked to clean it up and create the opportunities that we enjoy along that river. We must act now, and this bond allows us to do this while keeping rates lower and more predictable. And finally, we've shown time and time again that when it comes to community safety, we do it the Boise way, doing everything we must to ensure that everyone is safe and that we maintain the trust that we enjoy. We have seen too many cities get it wrong, and we will not do that here. To keep a growing city safe, we will grow our police and public safety, and we will continue our commitment to making sure everyone in our community feels safe, and to maintaining that trust and accountability to make that possible. We re-envisioned the Office of Police Accountability, and I am so pleased to announce it's the first of its kind in the nation, from recruitment to retirement, career-long human and civil rights program for our Boise police officers. At the heart of community policing is the desire to partner with the community to protect the rights of everyone. This curriculum will build on national best practices and leverage local expertise. It'll form a foundational pillar of our officers' training and development. We will commit resources to develop and launch the program, and we're calling on partners, philanthropists, other organizations committed to civil and human rights to help us address these important and fundamental issues in this innovative Boise way. The last 2 years have presented challenges that we never would have imagined we could withstand. It's tested our nation, our community, our resolve. We've experienced struggles and celebrations, triumph and loss, fear and resilience. And like each of you, I've been tested. This summer marked a year since protesters burned masks, that simple, humble tool that we use to protect each other, at City Hall. They walked to our house with pitchforks and weapons and showed up every Sunday for the rest of the summer. They came in the dark of Thanksgiving week. And while my family tried desperately to ignore the glow of torches so close to our porch, people throughout the city inundated us with texts, with phone calls, with emails, with Boise Care. My kids will not forget. They will remember always instead who they are, who we are, who they are, who we are because of where we are from. Boise showed up that night and has continued to show up after. Kids made hundreds of hearts, putting them on our porch and in our yard, a show of compassion and care that bolstered us, cheered us, it lifted our resolve. Those hearts are on display in my home. They're on display here in City Hall. And they are in our archives as a reminder that in some of our lowest moments, Boise's sense of community and compassion for others lifted us. We've had many dark days, but they are followed always by better ones. And this will continue to be true no matter how much our city grows, no matter how big the challenges we face. It's because each of you, like our community heroes, who make our city what she is, and will make sure that Boise remains Boise as we grow. It is my honor to give this speech to you, just a handful of our city's community heroes, because you give me hope, and you give our residents hope. You are Boise. You are the essence of this place. Her people. It makes our city what she is. You guide us into the future with a unity of purpose and action, with our shared vision of a beautiful city of trees for everyone in what was once a desert wilderness. You represent just a fraction of those who stepped up and stepped in during this pandemic, during this intense time of need, and I thank you deeply for it. Your stories remind us of who we are, of who we can be, and because our stories must be told, our stories as Boiseans, stories that challenge our sense of who we are, that point out the struggles and troubles and triumph of the human condition and of our community, I've selected Boise Contemporary Theater as our next cultural ambassador. For over 20 years, they have told stories for us to experience at a theater that's been closed for the last 2 years, and we can't wait to get back in. It'll be open soon again. I look forward to working with BCT to share the story of Boise's arts, her people, her values, and to challenge each and every one of us as we think and look towards our future. Ben Burdick is here representing BCT. Thank you to you and your team, and congratulations. Our stories, our cultural history are so important. These community heroes cannot be forgotten. Because I said earlier, I wish we knew more of the experiences of Boise 100 years ago in a similar moment. And so to make sure that future Boiseans understand that people stepped up, they know the concerns and fears that we had, the actions we took to keep our kids safe, our schools open, our businesses running, and our neighborhoods strong. For this reason, we're going to create and display a permanent key to the city to honor healthcare workers, essential workers, and everyday Boiseans who have helped us weather this pandemic. We are growing now, just as we have many times before. And I think we all have a story of how we found Boise. Like Boiseans in every generation before us, Scott and I felt the promise of this place decades ago. We left our family to set out on our own, head west, and build a life. We'd been out of school less than a year. We were newly married with big hopes and big dreams. We fell deeply in love with Boise, her people, her promise. And like every Boisean that had set out on the journey before us, we arrived alone, and this community welcomed and uplifted us. We built our family here, and we felt called to impact the place that called us home. We learned that Boiseans protect each other, our community, this special place. We experienced firsthand the impact of committed residents working with that unity of purpose and action when we helped in the first Foothills Levy. We met leaders who had dedicated their lives to this community and state, new residents and emerging advocates, and neighborhood leaders who had developed coalitions to solve problems, often national in scope, in a Boise way. I'm committed to continuing that legacy alongside each of you. This Boise way makes sure that we are a community that will continue to address big challenges, grow, and yet retain the essence and soul of this community that we deeply cherish. COVID called us to do this. Climate calls us to do this. Our kids call us to do this. And we will do it the Boise way, learning as we go, wrapping our arms around people, keeping the importance of each other front and center in our decisions and actions. United in purpose, setting aside those differences for our shared care for this place, we will continue with those before us started and realize our vision of a beautiful city for everyone. A strong, welcoming city filled with passionate people. It is a deep, deep honor to preserve and protect our home while pushing onward with each of you. We have done it before, and together, I know we will do it again. Continue pushing forward the Boise way. Thank you.